A lot of the current mainstream spirituality is avoidance in disguise. Real healing, real growth isn't about avoiding what is upsetting you, avoiding what is triggering you, or avoiding what is difficult. It's about being comfortable in those situations. And it's not even about avoiding those situations. It's not about no longer being angry, no longer being upset, being above all of that. It is about having the strength and fortitude to sit with it, to sit in the discomfort, to sit in that feeling of weakness or upset or anger. It is about exposing yourself to things that previously you didn't feel capable of, or that scared you, or made you feel small. All of these things that you had an adverse reaction to or caused discomfort, it is about doing those things anyway. That is how growth happens. That is how resilience and strength is built, not by circumventing discomfort or avoiding what makes us uncomfortable, but actually leaning into it. One of the most obvious examples of this is relationships, where somebody has been hurt previously. Maybe they went through a bad breakup or had bad friends that betrayed them, or whatever relationship you can think of. The unhealed response to that is people are terrible. Getting into relationships or friendships, that causes me massive amounts of pain and suffering and discomfort. So I'm going to come to the conclusion that people are bad, friendships are bad, relationships are bad, and avoid all of it. You end up throwing the baby out with the bathwater and just trashing the whole idea. And, maybe you live as a recluse or a hermit or just avoid social interaction because that's what feels safe. You feel happy, uncomfortable, and peaceful when you're alone. So why go and be with people? What do people do other than cause you pain or discomfort? And I think we can all agree that, there's some element of truth to that. But you cannot heal until you are open. And being open means you have to learn to navigate those relationships, navigate friendships, not avoid them, not abandon them altogether, but understand what was causing those breakdowns of previous relationships, previous friendships. What role did you play in the corruption of them? If you think that every relationship that you've had and every friendship that you've had has all gone bad and it's all on the other people, then you haven't done the work. And once you start to do the work, you realize, even if you are on the receiving end of abuse, if you are being really honest with yourself, really doing the difficult thing and looking at yourself deeply in the mirror and saying, what role did I play in this? Where did I permit this? Where did I see the signs and ignore it? Where did I avoid confrontation or the discomfort of dealing with these issues that allowed it to metastasize into something really, truly terrible? How long ago should I have exited this relationship? And why didn't I do that? These are incredibly difficult questions, and they bring up a lot of shame and fear and guilt, and all of that is what is really sitting within you that's avoiding you from making progress, that is preventing you from moving on and developing new healthy relationships. And that is a really hard pill to swallow. It takes a lot of bravery and strength and resilience to ask those questions of yourself, to put yourself in the chair and really shine the spotlight on what is wrong with me. Okay, I accept that person acted unjustly or they did things that were terrible, inarguably terrible, but what did I do that allowed that situation to unfold? Or what could I have done better? And the reason why this is such a personal process is because if you are in that situation and you speak with people that care about you and love you, they are going to say that none of it was your fault, that you didn't deserve any of that. And that is, of course, true, but it's not the whole truth. And only you can truly know the whole truth. Only you can truly know and confront your own monster. even if you didn't do something about the subconscious process behind it, the thoughts that you may have had, the doubt, the fear, the inaction, the times where you knew to do something but you didn't because you were scared to do it, but you should have done it, and you know retrospectively that you should have done it. These things sit within you. And it isn't about shaming yourself or making yourself feel guilty or making yourself into the villain. It is about bringing the truth to the light and unburdening yourself from all of that resentment and guilt and shame and fear that sits within you. And the only way to alleviate that is by understanding, is by compassion, is by being empathetic with yourself. But if you don't allow yourself to surface those things, then they will always get stuffed down. It will always be something in the back of your mind or deep down in your heart that you think that you are X, that you are not going to take action when you need to, that you have no boundaries, that people are always going to walk all over you. These beliefs sit really far beneath the surface, and you have to do a lot of digging and be really, really ruthlessly honest with yourself in order to allow them to come to the light. And part of that is you have to create a space that allows yourself to do that. If you are, every time you think about a mistake you made or a place that you could have done something better, and you go straight to, I'm such an idiot, I'm so stupid, how can I have seen that, I should have done this earlier, and just start berating yourself, then that's not safe. The stuff that's under the surface is never going to come up because you can't even allow yourself to process surface level things in a healthy way. So when it comes to things that you feel really deeply ashamed of, or you feel really guilty, or there are things that you have inside you that, like seeds of doubt, they will never come up. How can they? How can you feel comfortable with yourself if your approach, even if it's not to everyone else, but it's only to yourself, is to abuse you the second that you try to open up? And this is why shadow work is so important, because it is a real deep personal process, but it is crucial, because if you don't, then you are running on autopilot. All of these things are affecting you in ways that you don't even know. And you don't know the extent that they're affecting you. You might think that you just don't want to make friends or don't want to have a relationship because you just don't like people. You just don't get on with people. And really, deep down, you know it is just a cop-out excuse. That it's something that prevents you or gives you a get out of jail free card so that you don't have to put yourself on the line again. You don't have to exercise your boundaries. You don't have to enforce them. You don't have to speak up for yourself. You don't have to communicate clearly. You don't have to make sure that you are developing relationships with people that you truly like. And it's not true that you will like everyone or that, you get on with everyone. All of these things are cop-outs. Because what it really means is that you don't know yourself that well. And you are afraid of making judgments of other people because you are afraid of the judgments that they may make on you. But having no boundaries, tolerating all different types of people and expressions and personalities, it might just be that people aren't for you. That some people you're just not going to get along with, and that's perfectly fine. But if you don't do the work, you will never be able to truly sit with those preferences. And that doesn't mean that just because you don't like someone, you have to do something about it. You just go, okay, these people aren't for me. And that means that because I know what isn't for me, I can identify what is for me. People that are constantly takers, they just are always asking for favors, always asking for stuff, and they never really give back, or they never look for opportunities in order to help other people, but they're very quick to, take anything that they can from them. Those kind of people aren't your people, especially if you are someone who has very open boundaries. You're not somebody who says no very often. Then that's going to be a situation where you end up codependent, or someone ends up dependent on you, where you're constantly providing and they're not really giving anything back. Or you might be really highly boundaried. And when it comes to people with no boundaries, you find it really difficult because You're just communicating honestly and truthfully, and if somebody had a problem with you, you would address it with them immediately. Or if you wanted someone to do something, or if somebody wanted you to do something, you would just say no if you weren't comfortable with it. You might not be able to be compatible or tolerate somebody with really open boundaries, because they are always saying one thing and they mean another. They're not direct, they're not honest, they're not upfront, and you find that incompatible. But this isn't about other people, it's about you. And it's about the reasons why you do the things you do, the reasons why you hold the beliefs that you hold. Because it is very easy to claim that you are healing, or you have healed, or you are growing, or you have grown, when the actual truth is that you are avoiding or avoid situations that cause that level of discomfort. If you are somebody who can never say no, then you will avoid relationships, because that is the thing that puts you in a position where you have to say no. So you've found this sneaky little way of circumventing it so that you don't actually have to say no. You just don't make friends. And then with that, you don't need boundaries. Your boundary is keep everyone away from you. And that is a little trick that you are using to prevent being in that uncomfortable feeling, being in that situation where you have to do something that causes you a lot of stress, which is to say no, or to reinforce a boundary, or to address conflict. These things are the things that you are avoiding, not growing. Another good example of this is people's perceived morality, that they think that they are that much more moral than other people when they're not in the situations that other people have been in. For instance, in modern society, most people would claim that if they were back in Nazi Germany, they would have never done the things that they would have done. They would have never agreed or ratted on people or permitted things to happen. They would have said something. They would have done something. They would have stood up for people. And it's really easy to say that when you haven't got an army saying that they're going to kill you and your family and everyone in your family, every blood relation, if you don't say something or if you don't do something. Your morality is tested only under pressure. It doesn't matter if you are a good person or a nice person when the opportunity to be so is easy. What matters, and the true test of whether you are a good person, is when everything is telling you not to be. You have all of the upside or all of the downside for doing so, and you still reject that purely for the fact that you don't think it's right, or you want to be someone who stands up for what is right. And almost everyone has their limits to that. Like, okay, you're a good person, but would you sacrifice the lives of your children to be good, to do the moral thing? Would you sacrifice their futures? Would you sacrifice the lives of your family to do good, to be morally superior? The overwhelming odds point to the fact that you wouldn't. You would have done exactly what those people did, which is nothing. If it didn't affect you, if there was a way to avoid any sort of conflict or discomfort or bad things happening to you, you would pick that route, that path of least resistance. And while this may be an extreme example, the chances are you're doing exactly the same in your life right now. There are beliefs that you hold that are exaggerated, that you either believe that you are that much worse or that much better than you really are. If you can only be happy or have peace in isolation and not around people, then you have no peace. If you can only be not triggered when people are only saying nice things to you, or when nobody is saying not nice things to you, then those triggers still exist and you haven't healed, you haven't grown, you have just avoided. And people will build a whole life around that which they want to avoid. They will design their life and their world and their experience into a way that allows them to not experience that which they don't want to experience. Things that make them uncomfortable, things that cause pain, things that truly challenge ourselves. Those are the things that we need to be doing. And that is where growth is located, in doing things that we don't want to do, doing things that we find difficult, doing things that we fear. That is the only source of growth. Anything other than that is false. It's make-believe. You can sit in your bedroom researching relationship dynamics and communication till you're blue in the face, but it doesn't make you good at relationships or communication until you work on your relationships and making friends and building out a community and communicating with people. Until you're actually exposed to that kind of stuff, it's just false. It's made up. Your growth doesn't hold under pressure. It doesn't hold under the stimulus of discomfort. And if you are only strong when it is easy to do so, you are not strong. If you are only confident when it is easy to be confident, you are not confident. Everything that you believe about yourself has to be stress tested. You have to see if it holds up under pressure. And that's the only way you can truly decide whether it's real or not. Because otherwise, you're just convincing yourself of bullshit. You're just convincing yourself of a narrative that you're a new person, that you're growing, that you're learning, that you're healing. And it's all rubbish. Because you are not doing the only thing that you actually have to do in order to grow, which is expose yourself to discomfort. Expose those fears, expose that nasty feelings that you have been avoiding your whole life. That is the only way to truly grow. There is no other substitute. There is no way of avoiding it. There is no easy path to being strong, to being capable, to being intelligent. You have to do the work. And doing the work requires suffering. That is a universal law of growth and learning, is that it occurs in suffering. And that doesn't mean enduring. Enduring is being comfortable, is being where you are now. That's endurance. That's not really suffering. That is still a form of suffering, but it's more like tolerating things, tolerating how you are now, tolerating your life now. That is avoiding the suffering that you have to go through to be who you want to be, to have a life that you want to have. All of that is on the other side of suffering, suffering that you are not willing to go through. So, if you truly are serious about change, if you're truly serious about growth and learning and real spirituality, and you are not consistently exposed to things that you are scared of or that cause discomfort or that make you uncomfortable, then you are kidding yourself, because no real work is happening. And I know that you want to get better. I know that you are serious about healing, about learning. That's why you're listening to podcasts. That's why you're trying to seek new information, new perspectives. But all that information is useless until you do the action, until you are exposed to the things that you are scared of. Everything else is preparation, and you can't prepare forever. At some point, you have to say, I've done what I can to prepare, and I now need to try. I now need the action. I now need to learn by doing, because everything that you want or everything that is holding you back is on the other side of it. Thank you for listening.